Arm amputees of Reddit, is sleeping on your side more or less comfortable now? Why? I dated a congenital left arm amputee, meaning he was born without his arm, and it was really convenient because his arm wouldn't fall asleep when we spooned in bed because there was none. Edit. Cheers for the upvotes gold silver. To clarify some of the questions blowing up my inbox, I referred to it as an amputation because he's missing a limb. It's the easiest way to have everyone know what I mean. It's technically a birth defect, not an amputation. When I commented, nobody had really contributed anything relevant, and I thought my story was acceptable. See, this is the shit I'm talking about. Thank you for your contribution. Dude, this is the kind of question I want to see on AskReddit. Something I've never thought of before, yet I'm intrigued about now. My cousin lost his leg in a train accident and went on to become a Paralympian multiple medalist, captaining his team 4 times. I can't relate to any of that, but I watch in awe as he wins over and over again. I never consider the human side of his daily life, only the superhuman side of his sporting career. So thanks for the perspective. Wow, thank you. Glad I could contribute this to the AskReddit community. It's hard for me to think about what it would be like because I haven't had anything amputated, but I love all the insights I am getting in these comments. Less comfortable. Sleeping on my side just feels weird. Also, the metal from the amputation hits my face and makes it very cold. Metal? There could be one of 2 reasons why Terry's metal. The first, and likely the most common, is that he just sleeps with the prosthetic on, which in turn is made of metal, though plastic over a metal frame is more common. It could also be that his particular prosthetic is either difficult to remove or impossible for him to remove it by himself. The other is that his particular amputation requires some additional underlying structure to attach to, which would be made of medical-grade stainless steel or titanium. Though that isn't common either, as relying on straps or simple suction is far safer, cheaper, and generally works. This now raises the question of how Dr. Octopus sleeps. He apparently can remove them when he isn't terrorizing New York or trying to do mad science stuff. That's because the arms are on a harness, not actually attached to him. That depends on the version. In some versions, him disconnecting the arms would make him sane again, and he'd probably never put them back on. So are they connected to his nervous system some way in those versions? Is it like a Bane thing, where they pump with chemicals that makes him crazy, or does he just go mad with power old school? In Spider-Man 2, he attaches them to his spine and develops an inhibitor chip to protect his higher brain function from the eye. After it breaks in a lab accident, he starts going mad. In the original run of the Amazing Spider-Man comics in the 60s, he just goes mad with power old school style, and is actually the first enemy to beat Spider-Man. Did you just know that off the top of your head? Cause that's interesting AF. Yeah, cause I'm a giant nerd. I don't follow modern Spider-Man comics so much anymore, but I loved the films and older comics as a kid. I'm hoping that Sandman gets defeated by a vacuum cleaner in Far From Home like he was in the comics. Mom's an amputee, lost it at 39. It's been 15 years since. She was a side sleeper, and says she can't sleep on the side with her amputation because it hurts too much. As for sleeping in the other side, it feels weird because her amputated arm just hangs. She forces herself to sleep on her back but never feels rested. I never knew how much I valued sleeping on my side until I read this thread. Forced back sleeping sounds miserable, honestly. Wishing your mom some good rest in the future. I sure did value it after I got tinnitus. Can't sleep on my side, otherwise I'll hear the squeaks in my ears keeping me awake and annoyed. Since then I only sleep on my back. Not an amputee, but a rehab doc who has treated hundreds, if not thousands, of amputees. Amputation of a limb is so much more than the absence of a limb. Almost all amputees have some degree of residual limb pain, obviously varying in severity. When you transect a limb, scar tissue forms, bony overgrowth occurs, and nerves form often painful structures known as neuromas. These issues impact their lives in many aspects. Quality of sleep is a huge problem for many as nerve pain tends to be worse at night. The media depiction where your arm is cut off and now it's basically the same thing but shorter is totally fiction. Very few people are better off after an amputation than they were before. Limb amputation is a chronic disease which negatively impacts people in a lot of ways. I often do pre-amputation counseling, and it's amazing how many people falsely believe that their lives will be drastically improved after an elective amputation. As good as our newest prosthetic devices are, Nothing beats your native limb if it's still functional. Elective amputation rarely solves the patient's problem, especially if it's pain. Edit, removed got spoiler oops. My father was an orthopedic surgeon, and he has a really weird story about a patient who wanted his leg amputated. Now there was nothing at all medically wrong with this leg, it was perfectly healthy. He just wanted it gone. He hated that leg. Apparently this is a not unheard of psychological condition where people develop intense antipathy for a limb. Obviously my dad refused to amputate a perfectly healthy limb, even though the guy insisted. So the patient went home and shot his leg all to hell with a goddamn shotgun, basically forcing the amputation. According to my dad, the dude was much happier without the leg. Weird story. I've heard of these. I've got my own brand of mental illnesses and kinks, and some of them are pretty out there, so I get humans are kind of screwed up. But man, I cannot think of how the brain wants you to remove a body part. I first heard about this in an article where a girl really wanted her left arm gone. She went to a few docs, no one would do it, so she went out on her farm with enough gunpowder, TNT, something, to trigger an explosion on a boulder that resulted in the boulder falling onto and crushing her arm. She then called 911, got her wish, but was placed in a psych ward for a while. She mentioned that although she was much happier with the arm gone, after she got home from the hospital one of the first things she did was plop down to play a video game, then realized without two hands, the controller wasn't very functional, so she was bummed about that. Humans are screwy. Probably the most original question here in years. Arm amputees of Reddit, if you were paid $1 million to have your arm back, would you do it? Why or why not? For $1 million, I'd let them attach a third arm on me. Anyone who wonders where on earth this question came from has likely never been a devoted side sleeper who has woken up many a night in agonizing nerve pain from the arm under your body. Some of you never touched your arm and not felt it, and it shows. All the times you wake up and can't feel it. And when you touch it, your arm doesn't even feel like yours. Sometimes I try to move my arm after sleeping and it just flops. I move it with my other hand and it feels so weird and just won't move. A couple of weeks ago, I smacked my face in full force of gravity thanks to my non-responsive arm. I've done that before. Nothing like a full force smack in the face from yourself. I'm amazed at this question. Edit, even more amazed at the puns down below. Hopefully there was no harm done to the amputees with all of these puns. Very unique one. It went out on a limb. Personally, I'm stumped on the question. I lost my left arm at the shoulder in 2011. Sleeping on my left side is great and weird. My phantom limb hangs down through the bed. Trying to sleep on my right side sucks because now my phantom limb makes it seem like I'm holding my arm up in the air. You can feel it as if you were holding it up? Yes, it doesn't relax. In my mind I am holding my arm up in the air. I have this weird feeling that the people with the fewest arms sleep the best. It's a conspiracy, man. Also, if you've lost an arm, how do you wash the armpit of the arm you still have? I just asked this out loud and got myself and 3 other people to look like monkeys when we tried to reach our armpits. Turns out it's not that hard to reach it. Go ahead, try it. Confirmed. Can touch left armpit with left hand. How would you wash the elbow though? Ooh, the elbow. Maybe put the soap down and move your elbow across it? Like. Soap up your thigh and rub your elbow against it or something. Or use a washcloth. I have the feeling Op is seriously considering amputation for sleeping purposes. Yeah, I just wanted to do some research first, you know? Not an arm amputee, nor do I sleep on my side, but I have a dog who still has all of his limbs. Hope that answered your question. I mean, your arm can't fall asleep, change log, removed. Sensory information does not always correlate to actual structure. Not only is it common for amputees to feel pain in the missing limb, phantom pain, but sensations of numbness and tingling are very common as well. Source: Work in Physical Therapy. Additional semi-related information. If you want a cool video to watch regarding how pain works, this TED Talk is really good, youtube.com.